Today's victim, my 2007 Triumph Tiger 1050 oil change. Got to get it done. I haven't done it this year yet. Going for a ride next weekend with my buddy Vincent, and so got to do it. This bike is pretty much stock except for little things like handlebar risers, cheap ass phone mount I had to buy on the fly one time. Of course, the GoPro mounts, you got to have those. Just put on some brand new tires a couple of weeks ago. Oh yeah. Let's see here. What did I put on this thing this time? Michelin Road 6. Excellent tires. And I rode in an absolute downpour for, geez man, about 4 hours getting over the mountain. Right after I put those tires on, they did absolutely wonderful. Delcavic exhaust, but it's just a slip-on. Didn't do the full header. Didn't need to remap the ECU or put in a commander of any sort, and runs like a top. Bike's an absolute hoot. So here we go. What are we going to be using today? The manual, of course. I try to get manuals on everything I do. Triumph 1050. This is one of the Haynes manuals, so it covers a few different models of bikes. So sometimes you find yourself kind of dredging through a bunch of other motorcycle information to find your information. But they're pretty straightforward. The pictures do suck. It's kind of hard to figure out what you're doing if you're relying on pictures. So if I can't get what I need out of these, then I'll of course go to the ever so useful YouTube. Here's my new oil filter sitting right there. I got my 4 quarts of 1040 4T full synthetic oil sitting over there. And so let's get into it. So what I got here is just an old quart oil container. For some reason, a lot of these bikes, the oil drain is going to be so close. Right there's our drain plug, and of course right there is our filter, just right back behind it. Boy, it's hard to get this camera up in there, but I can never get the tray to get nice and evenly centered underneath it. As you can see, it's going to hit right on the edge, and then most of it's going to end up on the damn ground, and I'm going to be mopping up a Exxon Valdez here in my garage. So this is my solution, and in fact I've probably used this one on 5 different bikes now, maybe more, but it works pretty good. You can just slip them up underneath there, kind of wedge it in so that it gets it right into your pan. It's got plenty of capacity so that it doesn't dump over the sides or anything, but just a quick simple solution for that problem. Alright, so the drain plug is a number 13 metric right there. Let's see, gotta put that on. Try not to screw things up too much here. Let's see if I can get some oil on my camera. Oh yeah, that's a good time. Okay. Oh, there it came. Alright. So if my plug drops in there, it's no big deal. I got a screen on the drain pan, so it'll just sit there. That way I don't gotta fish it out of the oil. Because, I don't know, 9 times out of 10 I drop these dang things. Just for the record, the bike is warmed up. So that oil will be a little bit thinner and easier to drop out. There we go. Let it drain, let it drain. And while that's draining, I'm going to go to the other side. I'm going to pull the dipstick, even though I already pulled and checked it before. That way we get a little bit of ventilation going through. Got the dipstick right there. Shazam. We're just going to set that right up there. Goes like that. I hate it because you get these little bits of dirt around the fill port here, and you're always trying not to knock any of it back down into the motor, but I think every time you do, you end up knocking it down in there. Sometimes if it's bad, I'll blow it off first with my air compressor, and then I can pull it out without too much worry. But there we go. This bike here has got around 20,000 miles on it. It's not too high mileage. Doesn't burn any oil at all. I've gone on multi-state trips with it before, and you know, I check the oil every day before I start the day's ride, and doesn't use a drop. Gotta hand it to him. Good engineering, good sound engineering. Yeah, the worst thing is I do have a bike lift, and here I am on the floor. Why? Because my bike lift is a baby stroller toilet paper storage unit. That's why. Oh, sometimes we just give up, right? Okay, that's draining nicely. Manual says 3.3 liters. Comes out to like 3.4 quarts approximately there, but when I fill it, I put in 2 quarts first, and then I start adding slowly and checking with the dipstick. I don't just measure it out blindly and just dump it in. I start checking it slowly. I have, you know, through the years accidentally overfilled cases a little bit, and of course they'll push it out that pressure case ventilator up into your air box, and so you're now running as much oil as you are gas. Mileage isn't as good though. But right now, boy, with gas prices as high as they are, you can't beat a motorcycle. Even this bike. I think it's in the 100, somewhere in the 100 to maybe 115, 120 horsepower range, somewhere in there. I could be off a little bit, but you know, for a machine with that kind of performance that still turns out pretty regularly 45, you know, miles to the gallon. Probably get a lot better if I keep my hand out of it. But the motor is such a hoot that I have a hard time not exploiting it. It is probably one of the fastest revving motors I've ever had. It's a triple 3-cylinder, but boy, it sure spools up quick, really quick. So you tend to live, you know, having a good time up in the upper rev range on this thing. I've been riding motorcycles since 1979. I've literally had dozens of bikes through the years. But, you know, every now and then you come across one that it just does everything so damn well that every time you get on it, you got a smile on your face. This is definitely one of them. I've been riding this thing now for a couple of years. Before this, I'd say smiles per dollar were my V-Strom 650, actually. I went down and bought one of those, brand new in about 2005, and I never had one single minute of buyer's remorse with that bike. I paid a lot for it because I ordered it with everything, all the factory hard bags, heated grips, center stand, whatever they sold for it, I bought. I bought it all at once that way. That's how I tend to do things when I buy stuff, especially if I'm buying it new. Just get what you want right off the bat. So that looks like that's pretty much down to just a little tiny drip right there. Now there's a crush washer on these. I typically will replace that crush washer maybe every third oil change, or if I, you know, obviously if I see a little drip or something forming underneath it, I'll replace it right off the bat. But they don't torque really high, and that washer always seems to reseal. Let's remember, when you flip your wrench upside down, right is still tight. There we go. There's that. Now we'll pop off the filter itself. I always save the lid to this half cut oil quart, just so that when I'm done I can stand it someplace like this and let it fall over and leak the rest of it out. Alright, we got a number 17 millimeter for that oil filter. Let's see if I can get back up there on it okay. Yeah, just like that. Super easy. And I did not pre-loosen that. They come off pretty good. Slide the drain pan a little further over there. Come on now. Yeah, so 3.33 liters with filter change. If you're just changing the oil, it's like 3 point. Sorry, had to do the interruption from the wife. Alright, so it's draining out pretty good. Get that off, flip that guy over just like that. Let it keep draining into the pan. And then I usually just sit and chill. Let it keep dripping, slow drip. Not going to be a whole lot more oil in there. You could probably button it up right away, but I'm old and I just do things a certain way. Why? I have no idea, but I do. So now we got the nice brand new oil filter right there. Something I've always done, always kind of been taught to do. Anytime your oil filter mounts in, you know, right side up like this, to where the engine's going to be on top, we'd always fill up the filter first before putting it on there. Now, I know that there's obviously a minimal risk if you don't do that. You know, clearly a lot of vehicles have their filters mounted in all kinds of different orientations where filling the filter wouldn't be possible without dumping it all back on yourself. So again, I guess I'm old school, was taught to fill the filter if you could. That way the pump never starts dry. And so I'll give my dad credit for that one. Reach up in there. I always reach up in there with my rag, try to clean the seal off there. Make sure there's no grit or grime or anything that might cause that new filter to leak. A bit like that. Not too bad. Okay, so now I'm going to add some oil there to that guy, just like that. And then the last thing you're always going to do is just dab a little bit of oil on your fingertip, run it around that O-ring. Get it around that O-ring, not too much, just enough to kind of give it some slip when you set it up in there. And this is where the hunt and poke method comes in. You gotta kind of reach up and feel where you were. Be careful you don't cross thread. There we go, just like that. Now it's typical to only do those hand tight. It's got a good seal, it's got a large seal, large good seal, and So it's not going to require you break out the wrenches and start torquing that guy down. The odds are pretty good next time you go to change it, you're not going to get it off without a fight. And of course this filter is recessed, and so it's pretty hard to get a filter wrench on it. Sometimes you end up getting desperate and driving a screwdriver through the dang thing to try to get it to give you some leverage to bust it loose. Okay, so the last thing we'll do is we're just going to double check, make sure that we tightened up that drain plug just a little bit. Yep, it's good and tight. There's that. Now slide that to the other side. And then of course this, the funnel. Got to have a funnel to put oil in these things. There is no way that this big mouthed opening here, look like a big Mickey's Big Mouth bottle, is gonna fit in that little hole. So get out the handy dandy funnel, fill it up slow because it's not a large funnel, and I did buy the oil recommended by the manufacturer. This is full synthetic. It's about, where I live, gosh, I want to say about 11 bucks a quart. But that's what the manufacturer wants. That's what the manufacturer gets. It is a 1040. Based on the area I live in, that's what's recommended. So there's the first quart. Now we'll do the second quart. And that down. Yeah, so I think you can, if you take your bike to the dealer, that's cool too. Nothing wrong with that. And for a lot of service, I probably would, just because anymore I just don't feel like doing it, you know. If I can afford to take it in, I'll take it in. But unfortunately, my dealer is completely on the other side of town, and there's just absolutely nothing convenient about it, because everything I do is on the west, or excuse me, on the east side, and it's on the west side. So, okay, 2 quarts in. Now I'm gonna pop that out and start dipsticking it. This one I always thread in when I check it. All the way down, all the way out. I'm always afraid of overfilling engines, so still dry. Well, there's a little tiny bit on the tip, so that means we're getting there. So I'm gonna add another part of the 3rd quart. Dang foil seals on the tops of these. That's another thing. Make sure you get all that foil off. Don't pour that down your motor. I can see how that could plug up the filter pretty quick. Alright. I think I'm getting everything in the shot. That's hard to see. here I'm going to start by looking at the clear line on the side. I'm going to put half in. Let it settle. Try it again. Clean off that O-ring there too. On your dipstick, it gets the same level of filth as the seat does there. So all in all, if you weren't filming or having to contend with your family, you could probably do this oil change in about 20 minutes. Still not coming up on the dipstick yet, but it's got a little bit on there now still. We'll add another. And the rest. Yeah, if you're on the road, you gotta add oil. Of course, you a lot of times don't have the luxury of that funnel. That's when you gotta start getting creative. Sometimes they got paper funnels at gas stations. Sometimes an empty pop bottle works too. Do the same thing, cut it in half, and it fits that opening a lot better than that big mouth opening does. So you're not dumping half of your oil on the ground. We're doing now. Oh yeah, it came right up. We are at the full level now, and that was 3 quarts. It said 3.3, and that might have been the oil filter that I filled up. So the next thing that I always do after I've filled it is I'll turn on the bike and I'll start it up and run it, and get that oil heated up and distributed all over the motor. Then I shut it down, let it settle again, and then recheck it. Yeah, right at 20,423 miles. Shut it off. And of course, don't forget the key ingredient to all oil changes or mechanical work in general: shabam! You got to get that in there. Take the edge off. Only if you're a legal adult. I would never advocate getting hammered while you're working on your machine. But it's about 98 degrees here today, and a nice cold beer is good this time of the afternoon. And I do not intend to go riding anywhere after this. I'll just go in and sit down on the couch and get yelled at by my wife some more. That's how I like to spend my Sundays. So right now it looks like that pulled our oil level back down a little bit. We're going to let it settle a little bit longer before we do anything crazy. All right, checking it again. See where it's at. So now we can see we're about a third of the way up the dipstick. So, quart number 4. And now we're definitely going to be adding it pretty slow. There we are, 750, 3/4, so just a touch below 3/4. Should be about right. There we go. Let's check that. Right on the money. Right there. And I got a little bit of oil left over in case it ever needs topping up. But that's it. Pretty straightforward and simple. Till next time.